It's great to be here and looking forward to the webinar. So as Jeanette said, today we're going to be talking about enhancing dam operations with artificial intelligence. Digital asset management really is key to a lot of enterprises in the way they work today, and a lot of folks are looking at how they can scale their dam operations using artificial intelligence and machine learning. And we're going to talk through a couple of examples of that and where we believe that AI and machine learning can really enhance what digital asset management can bring to an organization. So first off, I want to start off with talking about our content. Really, in today's online world, with all the different channels that we have to deliver to, from the web to mobile devices, and as well as continuing to support more traditional environments, our content really has become front and center of the customer experience. And particularly, research has shown more and more that actual visual content is really key. Recent research we did at Nuxio, particularly in the retail industry, showed that the majority of customers really want to see imagery and video and audio, and they want that to be up to date and accurate and reflect their interest and their environment. So it's not only thinking about what images that we're putting out there, but actually making sure that they're relevant, and also linking those images to the business processes behind them so they actually have some meaning and drive some value. So really, content, and particularly rich media, is becoming more and more important to both the customers and to companies. And we really need to look at ways that we can leverage that, drive that, and scale that across the organization. And obviously, key to that is actually managing and utilizing our digital assets. First and foremost, we really need to know what we've got in terms of digital assets. We need to be able to access them, utilize them, make sure that they're used in the right place at the right time, in the right channel, and the right media. We also need to avoid expensive and inefficient duplication. Again, some more recent research that we've done at Nuxio has shown that when people can't find stuff, in 60% of those cases where somebody cannot find a asset, they will actually go and recreate it. And that can be very expensive. We've seen figures as high as $30,000 or $50,000 to go to recreate something that already exists. And in some cases where we're dealing with companies that have multiple brands, they're recreating the same content over and over again for different brands or different business units, and it's essentially the same content. So it can be very costly. If you can't find what's already there, you're either going to go create it, or you're just going to go recreate it based on existing business practices. So the more that we can manage and control that, then the better the whole digital asset management process becomes. We're also seeing while a number of companies are developing in-house creative studios, there is still very much the need to coordinate across multiple creative suppliers, be those in-house or external. And we need to sort of centralize and manage our collections of content and metadata wherever they are across the organization. And that's getting more and more complex as information is stored in more and more systems. So just to give an example of that, this is sort of, if you like, where the 7 touch points that we've seen where really digital assets are providing the most value across an enterprise, and everything from thinking about a product idea all the way through to design, delivery, and actually supporting the product. So really, it is driving the product and driving information across the enterprise, driven by digital assets, from everything from thinking about what does a material that we're going to build a product or deliver look like, how are we going to design the product, taking photography, marketing campaigns, thinking about packaging design, all the way through to somebody on the sales floor being able to actually know what the latest information is, know what imagery has been used in marketing campaigns, know where the product's on sale, the various versions of a product. So all of these things can be driven by digital assets. So really, digital asset management and the idea of enabling digital asset management is really moving beyond just being a marketing function to across the enterprise as a whole. And by pulling all these ideas together and managing it as a whole and enabling it as a whole, by connecting your digital assets and your content assets to the data throughout a enterprise lifecycle, we're building what we like to call a digital supply chain that really increases the value of our digital assets and accelerates the ideas around products and services to market, which hopefully drives higher revenue. So again, digital assets are really key, not just in driving these great customer experiences that we all want to see these days, but actually, if you make them the core of the digital supply chain, they're also become valuable for the way that an organization works and gets products to market quicker, which is very essential in the situation we're in today and probably in the near future as well, as more and more people want to actually do things digitally. But what we're finding is the old ways of really managing content and data don't really work anymore. We find often that, as I mentioned, assets are spread across multiple systems around an organization, and often these are not connected to each other. On average, we found on average, people are looking across 9 different systems. That's on average. So there are areas where they're looking at a lot more systems to go find that information. And they're looking, as I said, on average, about an hour, people are spending about an hour a day just looking for assets and looking for information. Not on this slide, but in 60% of those cases where they can't find it, they're going to go and recreate it at high cost. And a lot of people believe that they see a potential of artificial intelligence and machine learning to really help with these solutions, address these issues. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of those. One of the ways of doing it is really to think about how you connect your metadata across the organization. So you may have different pieces of metadata about different information, different pieces of content attached to those 9 or 10 or however many different systems that you actually want to bring together and connect with in a master metadata model that could be managed in something like a content services platform, or a DAM that has the ability to manage information federated across different systems. And artificial intelligence really plays a role in that. We really see the promise of artificial intelligence as doing things that we can do as humans, but doing it at speed and at scale. Not necessarily replacing humans, but working alongside humans to do the stuff, the mechanical stuff, and do it at a way that can be done quickly and with a large number of assets. So we're really looking for artificial intelligence to recognize our content types, understand the difference between an image and a video and the different file types and text and so forth, understand what those content types are, and then be able to extract the data from that content, extract data that we want to use to connect to other systems. And as part of that, sort of enriching the content metadata, thinking beyond just the basic metadata that goes with our content, and how can we enrich it and make it more useful across the organization? How can we really drive value from that metadata? We're also looking at AI to do things like predict delivery information and analyze when things are being used and what's being used, what's important to the customer, and what assets are more important, what assets are getting the use, and start to recognize the patterns and connections across that, and then enable us to identify some of the outlying data points around that. So really looking towards artificial intelligence, machine learning as a way to help us do a lot of the things that we sort of do intuitively, but do it in a way that is both consistent, fast, and at scale. So there are 2 types of artificial intelligence, machine learning that we think about at certainly at Nuxio that we consider. The first is the generic, and the second is the business specific, and we'll go a little bit into each of those. But really, generic artificial intelligence is the broad set of public services that anybody can use. They're really commodity models that provide a generic service, things like general classification, speech to text, and so forth. And then there's the business specific, which really deliver highly relevant insights and enrichments that are specific to your business case, your business domains, your customer domains. And these are really built using custom AI and machine learning models to deliver more meaningful outcomes for the business. And we're going to go through an example that really shows how these two work together. That this is not an either or. Really, generic AI can really provide the foundation, and then you build business specific AI on top of that to really provide the specific value for your business. So if you think about generic AI, something like Amazon Web Services, you've got things like image and video recognition, the ability to transcribe, maybe transcribe video, extract text, and maybe do some automated translation. A lot of these generic services are configurable to around a certain content structure, and they definitely scale. But they are really built by normalizing information from many, many different providers. Gives it a lot of power, but it makes the results fairly generic and basic in terms of what you actually get out of it. But again, as I mentioned, they provide a good foundation for enriching your digital assets going forward. So here's an example of a stock photograph from Ford run through the Google Cloud Vision API service. And as you can see, it really, it's pulled out. If you look on the right, you can see it's pulled out some of the data from the image. And, this is really helps in terms of findability. If we're looking for an image of, a car, and an image with a car and a minivan in it, the information's here that allows us to find that information. It's fairly relevant and accurate, but slightly limited. And these are a nice set of labels and metadata for us, but again, they're relatively generic. They don't really tell us much about what we might need for our individual business. Good for searchability on a basic level, but probably not much more than that. But again, it's better than just having the stock photograph with no metadata. What we really want to do is move towards having and building on that with a business-specific artificial intelligence and machine learning service. And the more we think about having what we call content bots, where things are actually models trained on your own particular content. So instead of working on a corpus of generic stuff that's provided by everybody, if we can train the AI on our own content, it becomes a lot more meaningful. So if we and also train it with all sorts of content, both documents, media, data, so we can have multiple inputs. What we also want is content bots that continually evolve. So each time you run it, it learns and it trains and it learns and it trains. So by doing that, it's surprising actually how few assets you need to start with to get a really good result. And then each time you run it, it learns a bit more and a bit more. We also want to make sure that we don't cut the human out of the loop. Having the human in the loop helps with active learning. We want to check on the results, make sure they're okay. We actually also want things to be auditable, so we can review the training and evaluations for each content bot and make sure it's right. And if a model isn't working, we want to be able to maybe scale back and use a previous model and try something else. So having that combination of bots that are based on your own particular content, that continuously learn, have the human in the loop, and are auditable and fail-proof really helps build really accurate, defined business-driven AI results. So if we take our same image and run it through a custom business-specific AI where we've had a custom model built, as you can see, we're actually producing more relevant data. We're getting things like the vehicle color, the license plate, the licensing state. We can really start to extract information from it, maybe even down to having a license number and plates. We can start to increase the business value of it. If we start linking these, say you're an insurance company, that license number, you can start linking it to your policy. If this image has come in with some metadata with some GPS coordinates, where the accident happened. You can also start to see whether you have a track record of the damage between a Chevy Tahoe and a Dodge Ram van. have you done similar claims before? What are the costs? You can start doing predictive analysis on what potentially could be the insurance claim cost. Really adding a lot of value to what is basically a digital asset, a photograph, and actually making it a true business asset that drives value for the organization through the specificity of the data that we've extracted, because we've got a business specific AI that's actually pulling out information and enhancing their whole dam management process and making it a key part of the organization going forward. And again, we also do things like facial recognition, so you can actually maybe link the information to an individual or an individual's account or something like that. So again, very, very quickly, you can actually start to add more and more value. At Nuxeo, our business-driven AI offering is called Nuxeo Insight. And just to give an example of the way we use this that really helps enable and drive a digital asset management for one of our customers is a multi-brand clothing company that owns many different brands of high street brands of clothing. And they really want to take a look at their imagery and be able to use the AI to look at the images, decide what sort of image it is. Is it a standalone product image of a model just wearing a couple of pieces of clothing design on it? Or do they want a lifestyle image where it's actually multiple people active with the clothing in an environment? And by building business-specific models, we can start to extract and pull out things like what type of image is it. So we can do searches. We can start to we can start to recognize the talent, the models that are being used. Who are the models in the photograph, and then link that to things like their talent record, their contract, digital rights things, particularly if it's a celebrity, where can we use them, where can't we use them. We can start looking at things like seasonality, what season of clothing is this, so we can make sure we're using the right images in the right campaigns for the right time. We can start pulling things out, location shots, again, geography, again, to make sure that we're using the right images in the right marketing campaigns or on the right packaging in the right market. And really, from an e-commerce point of view, we can get real value by relating the products. It may have been a photograph taken to just really promote a shirt, but by doing that on an e-commerce site, we can link by recognizing the associated products around it, such as the shorts and the sunglasses and the hats. We can start to link those in an e-commerce platform, so you can do some upsell and cross-sell of different things. The other thing about using AI to do this is the fact that it really pulls this information in a consistent way. Again, really helping increasing findability, because we're making sure that the same product is tagged the same way every time that the AI does it, as opposed to humans who generally have some variance. In fact, humans tend to be about 85% accurate and consistent when they do these sort of things manually. The other thing to think about is if you've got humans doing this and going through and looking at the lifestyle image and pulling out all this sort of information, how long does it actually, do you need to train somebody to be an expert that they can recognize maybe who the models are? And then maybe it's somebody different who needs to understand all the different pieces of products within that brand and how they relate to each other and when they're used. So that could be 2 or 3 different people who need to go through all these photographs and figure out all this metadata and connections and so forth, which can all be done automatically using business-specific machine learning models. So I mentioned earlier that humans are generally around about 85% accurate, and that we found it doesn't really take too much content for you to be able to actually get a good machine learning result going with the Nuxeo Insight, particularly. As you can see, probably at around about putting in 100 images will give you a result that's basically equivalent to a good human in terms of accuracy, you'll get around that 85% point with about feeding it and training it with 100 assets. Only takes about 200 assets to get up to the 90% plus mark. And as you can see, it starts to plateau off. So really, you can start to get really good results with 200 to 300 by training on 200 to 300 images to start with, and then using continual learning as you go forward. And the more assets that you add and the more assets it goes through, and the more it learns each time and gets better and better and better. And really, it does enhance the digital asset management process, making it more valuable, allowing you to link to the data, and doing things, as I said, in a consistent way that makes it a lot more findable, which reduces the recreation and the expensive duplication of effort that sometimes goes on when people can't find stuff. By using AI, you make that findability much higher. So really, one of the things that we believe that AI can really drive is this thinking beyond the metadata, really enhancing the digital asset management process away from just being about managing pictures for marketing, by really updating your assets, updating and thinking beyond just the metadata around the assets, but what does that asset represent? How can we link it to other systems around the organization? How can we use AI and machine learning to enable us to pull out those pieces of data, really extract the entities within the image, and use those as the trigger points to link to other parts of the business process? And we really believe that that's where the benefits of AI and machine learning, as well as the speed and scalability of the process, is also that it can really place the digital asset front and center of the digital supply chain, and really help bring it to be an essential part of the enterprise and the way it works, by linking all these systems together in a way, again, done consistently and at scale using AI and machine learning. So really, that sort of completes the sort of formal part of the webinar. I hope that provoked a few thoughts, was interesting. If you'd like to know some more detail around our thinking around artificial intelligence and digital asset management, we have a white paper, Reducing Image Hide and Seek with AI. You can find the white paper on the nuxio.com resource center. And if you haven't already, I would encourage you to download and take a read of that, and be more than happy to answer any questions either around that or around the slides that we've just been through. So again, thank you for your time. Hope everybody's staying safe and well, and appreciate people taking the time to dial in today and listen to the webinar. I'm happy to answer any questions.